What's up, everybody? We were literally here last night, but we decided to come back do another pod for you guys. So obviously, we want to talk about camp. We got some people here. This is kind of Jason's pod, so kind of his impromptu thing along with Chris Mason. So Jason, the floor is yours. Introduce everybody and go from there, man.
Yeah, listen, man. Obviously, it's all of our pod. We do this together all the time anyway. And Chris Mason was talking about it, so I said, yeah.
Until now, game changer. They have a wire trimming head that's universal. It's going to fit any weed eater. They have different sizes.
Where might this be coming from? Not from me.
Who's that with the Jet 2 holiday, right? No,
That was
nah. Yeah,
wild.
Jason.
That was wild. I don't know what that was. Whoa. All right. Can y'all hear me now? Are we
Yeah.
good?
Again.
All right. Hey, man.
Hello,
Just
can you
wanted
hear
to
me?
jump in here and talk to everybody about. I actually saw a couple of things. I was in Athens today. I listened to Kirby Smart getting after his team for about 45 minutes from outside of the fence. Um, caught a little bit of that.
Right?
Somebody's got it turned on somewhere.
It's not me.
Okay. Anyway, moving on.
All right.
Um,
Hey, man. Hello, can you hear me? Jump in here and talk to
Who is that with the delay?
Somebody's got a big delay. I don't even have it on.
Getting after his team for.
Wait, maybe there it is. How about now?
Yep.
Nothing left. It was me. My bad. Woo, what a day. Anyway, here we are again. We were, we were here last night. I didn't make it through on that one because of driving through the rain. A couple of accidents I got behind. Today I was actually in Athens watching, doing some different video work and stuff, and actually listened to Kirby Smart kind of get after his team for about 45 minutes. I mean, I didn't realize he was that rough on them guys, but it makes sense, I guess. But listen, a lot of buzz about OU fall camp. First live look in at what they've got going on over there at camp. A lot of good things going on both sides of the ball. It sounded like. Kind of, we'll go around the horn and have everybody just kind of give their impressions of what they saw today. Chris Mason, go ahead and start with you. What did you see and what's buzzing in Norman for you?
Well, to me, just the team itself that looked great on the hoof. The guys looked to be in great shape. Just you're watching some of the D line, O line battles, getting after each other. The guys look good. You're watching, Jaden Ott looked incredible today. There's some tight end footage that was shown where you've seeing both Caden Helms, Carson Kent, Higgins, and Canick. They were all looking pretty good. R. Mason Thomas kind of ragdoll Canick a little bit, but he's going to make a lot of guys look stupid. He made Michael Fasusi look not so great today as well. That's just our Mason Thomas. He's a senior. That's what he's going to do. You've got there's a Kendall Daniels scene where he was kind of doing some special team stuff. I'm predicting now he blocks at least one punt. The guy off the edge is too big, too physical, and too fast and too long for most personal protectors back there, or most guys in the blocking scheme. If a rugby guy runs his way, he's going to take his head off. I mean, it's just, Reggie Powers looks good. Devin Jordan apparently had a good day today. They ran 3 O-line groups, mixing stuff up, and the guys look good. It's just the team itself. I've been hearing, I've heard a lot that the team, they've changed some stuff up strength and conditioning wise, and guys felt like they're stronger, have put on better weight, retaining stuff better. They've changed some schemes and some practices and habits up. And the team looks like $1 million. And I don't know how else to say it other than it's hard watching the practice videos and not getting excited about where OU is. I mean, especially on defense, there's just so many second and third year guys. Just the accumulation of talent, right? Just all the guys that you see in terms of second, third year guys, fourth year guys, and all that. Scott Walker just mentioned EPL. Barry Trent Wilson on a blocking play. EPL looks good. I think it's interesting that Ryan Foji was the first guy to step up at right guard. With Noewu was out today for a personal reason, but Foji was the first guy they put in there. But they had Logan Howland and Ozeta on second and third team guys, along with Akin Kimi and Baklenko. Makula at center was taking charge of the backup center duties. It's just the depth of the offensive line group. They had three groups they had working through everything according to all the reports, and that's just we barely could put together 5 guys last year, and that's 15 guys that they had out there working hard, and that's not even including some guys that aren't quite back in the mix, like Afalava or Hollenbeck, who's probably going to redshirt. So you're talking about, and I think Isaiah Autry-Dent's still working his way back into the mix after his knee injury. So I think we've been a big JJF critic for legitimate at tight end, and they look good on the hoof. They look the part, and even Caden Helms is finally back out there after 2 years of.
Let me jump in here real quick if y'all don't mind. So we got Parker Berry. He has 2 comments I want to get to. He says, offense right now, early returns on summer. Just for a second. So there are not necessarily at Illinois State or whatnot, but go on YouTube and look up Keontez Lewis. Go and look up his film at Wisconsin. And you'll see great things. Giovanni Gibson, obviously, he pops off of the screen. But when you go and look at Satania is the guy who is just uber athletic, uber fast. We all believe Brennan Thompson would be kind of somebody who's not only fast, but competitive too. Sometimes I question, but also being able to base things off of his technique as well, to rely on that, right? Satania, I think he gives you all of that in a nutshell. But when you go and look at a guy like Keontez Lewis, I don't necessarily know what happened at Wisconsin, but he always found a way to get open, and he always found a way to catch the ball, and he always found a way just to be in good spots. So for him, I didn't necessarily know what was wrong. Maybe Fickle came in there, changed some things up or whatnot. But the consensus among a lot of Wisconsin fans, at least what I found, was that they thought that he was due for like a breakout year, right? So he still goes to Illinois State, puts up some decent numbers or whatnot, but all that you want to do is give Arbuckle and Mateer good pass catchers. They've shown you what they can do. If you went and put on the film and watch them watch them at Washington State, not just being enamored by what Mateer can do with the ball, but actually trying to see this offense and break it down, you would see Mateer is not afraid to get people involved in the game, meaning all his wide receivers. So Kyle Williams definitely got the bulk of the load, but at the same time, the Meredith kid, you can't talk enough about him. There were other kids as well that were getting involved as well in big ways, and he finds those guys. So the thing is that now there are certain elements of this offense I don't think you've been able to unlock, simply because obviously Washington State, they've had some good years, whatever the case may be, and he's had some good offenses. But the fact of the matter is, I think now at OU, he may be able to unlock a couple more elements. Run game, having a better run game with the offensive line, not necessarily having to rely on Mateer's legs, but basically using that as a decoy, as a threat, right, in the RPO game a lot. So there's different things in this offense that are going to be available. But the fact of the matter is that you're sitting there, you're thinking, okay, Giovanni Gibson, Jaden Gibson. Then you think Kearney. Then you think Satania, Keontez Lewis, Elijah Thomas. Then you got to keep going down the list. Jacob Jordan, right? Ivan Carrick probably been as just a complete this offense. I'm really starting to truly buy in. obviously I got to see what it looks like on game day, but I'm really starting to buy in simply because I think that you have guys who have superstar potential in this offense, but you also have those guys that BV talks about a lot, which are just consistent. And if you have guys who are just playing consistent, good pass catchers, competitive pass catchers, that's going to make a difference on game day. And so that's why I'm really big on our receivers.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Kay Lewis is like your third or fourth option, that's a good third or fourth option, right? If Burks is one, and let's say Satania, some combination of Satania, Kent Kearney is two, and then Kay Lewis and Jermichael Carter, and when you get Giovanni Gibson back, I think you've just got weapons, and you've got a rotation of weapons, and you've got depth right now that you didn't have last year. If you didn't have last year because of the injuries and just the offensive stall in terms of Dev and in terms of just whatever was going on with Jackson and the offensive line and all those things, it just looks better. It just looks Material's throwing the ball around. Even Mike Hawkins is throwing the ball around. It looks better. It just looks better, man. And you're right. You've got the potential there. So again, they just look good on the hoof. You've got, I was watching some of the drills with Mike Hawkins throwing the ball as well. He's slinging the rock pretty well. He looks pretty good. It was just very, very encouraging watching that level of skill and that level of talent out there. Like I said, the tight end group even looked good. I saw Huggins blocking, Helms blocking. Helms was blocking Marvin Jones, working hard trying to block Marvin Jones. If Helms can hold up against Marvin Jones, I think that's a good sign of what he can maybe do as a blocker. He looked good catching the ball. Looked freaking awesome out there. It was sort of like, okay, where has that been? He just looked great.
Chris Mason, I gotta cut in. Because I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do that.
Why?
And literally, it's kind of I don't know. You can't get these people hopes up about the. You can't get these people's hopes up about the tight end room. Come on, man.
I'm down with you as much as anybody on JJF as we have in the offseason. I'm just saying, based upon one day of actual footage, the tight end group did not look like a bunch of stiffs. They caught the ball. They physically looked the part. They looked good on the hoof. I'm not saying anything more than that. Nothing more than that. One practice, they look good on the hoof. They look good. They look pretty good in blocking drills, and they look good in passing drills. I got nothing more to say than that. I'm just telling you, Brent was talking up Caden Helms. We mentioned it. We said we'll see it when we believe it. That's what Brady said on that last pod. Completely with him. He was out there. He's running. He looks the part. I don't know what else to say. I don't know that it will actually ever pan out, but he looks the part and he looks good. So, if people want to say I'm being a homer or whatever, fine. Maybe I'm sucking on the hopium.
Who are we talking about? Jade Knott?
No, we're talking about the tight end room. Chris Mason was giving glowing reviews about them, and I said, don't do that to the people.
I preface on that this is a limited view, but I'm just saying they looked good in shorts and pads. I don't remember ever saying that last year. I don't ever remember saying Caden Helms looked mobile or ambulatory last year. He looks ambulatory. He's blocking someone. I don't know what it'll mean this fall, but based upon one set of videos, he looked good in shorts and pads.
Yeah, well, as Rob says, every player looks good in shorts and pads, but you haven't been seeing this a bunch from the tight end room, and it's definitely been a problem. I've been talking to people about what we've heard about where, Wilson kind of got in the middle of JJF, and and let them know that, hey, this is not how this room has been run. It wasn't how it was run whenever you were in school. It's not how it should be being run now. Kind of lit a fire under his ass. I feel like that's going to be one of those underscored things about this season. If they go on to do the things that we're expecting them to do because you were saying, as you said on the hoof, what they look like is, as far as talent's concerned, it's all there. I think that it's a matter of, at this point, it's a matter of shoring up the coaching staff in the places that they've been a little deficient. And one of the things that I wanted to say last night before I kind of ended up, the reception was bad and everything else, was that, of everybody that should get a free pass, it should be Bill Bedenbaugh. All the talk about the offensive line and whether it's going to be good enough or not and all this other shit, I think it's as overblown as anything I've seen or heard about this program coming into this season. You had some injuries. At the end of the year, the offensive line was not the problem. It was not the problem. So I feel like they're good there. But I think Kevin Wilson's going to have a big – he'll have a big, effect there as well. He works well with Big Bill. I think that they know exactly what they're trying to do together in that sense. I think that when it comes to those guys, when you look at what Ben Arbuckle is, I think he can take some level of and I don't know how much, but I would guess that he's going to be able to take advice from those two guys in view of the fact of all the experience that they have, and then be able to put his twist on everything and let's go. But I mean, I like seeing the fact that you had the defense get a pick six on Mateer and he turns around and throws one over the top and hits a big player down there. So, I think it's going to be good.
I mean, the guys were getting at. I mean, the drills that we saw, and again, I know it's shorts and pads, guys. I'm not blowing this out of any proportion, but the guys are being physical. They're out there. They were hitting. I mean, like I said, Eddie Pierre-Louis basically shoved Trent Wilson's face in the dirt today. So, R. Mason Thomas made Michael Fasusi look real bad. Marvin Jones Jr. blew past one of the offensive tackles and was in the backfield for a play and could have just absolutely destroyed folks. I mean, they were playing, they were playing. Tyler Wines flying out there, hitting folks, flying around. I'm just saying that on the hoof, again, to me, that, I had several people, other Sooner fans who I talked to, just said what they were looking at. Like, the team looks good. They say now it's up to the coaching staff, right? It looks like the team had a great summer off season. They did what they were supposed to do. The guys look to be in great shape. It's now time for the coaches to put all that raw material ready and get it on the field. And I think that's as much as you can say today, is that the raw materials appear to be there. And you couldn't have said that last year. I don't think you could say that last year, especially at the O-line, and especially overall at tight end. I just don't think you did. You had the pieces you needed. And I think they're there now. What we do with them, I don't know, but I think there's a good chance that you've got a lot of skill guys back. You've got the wide receiver depth looks night and day. Jay Knott looks fantastic at running back. It's hard to exaggerate how good he looked today. Mateer is obviously just dealing. And it's echoes. It's hard not to make that. It's hard not to make that 2015 leap, right? When Baker and Shep basically willed that team through the first half of the season until the O-line improved and Piron and Mixon were able to help you ride through their second half of it with a good defense. And I think this defense could be better than 15's. The schedule is much harder, but it's hard not to think that with Mateer instilling some confidence back in this offense, that you're not going to see some payoffs, and that's just an early overreaction for me.
I like where they're at. Okay, Chris, where are you at on what did you see that you liked the most?
What did I see that I liked the most? I mean, first, what I mean, when you just watch something, just the juice, just the electricity, you could feel it. You could feel that. Hey, that dude has not only a second gear, but he's twitchy. He moves different. He looks lightning fast. It's not that he necessarily decides he one cut and he's gonna know. He's making educated guesses. He's figuring stuff out. Not scared to run through the trash. He just looks different, man. Like what I saw from Javante Barnes. Interested to see how that's all going to play out. Hopefully, those rotations are not crazy. Um, Obviously, wide receiver. You could talk about that. I think for the most part, what I really like was just I'm just pointing out players that I saw. PJ looked really good. I thought PJ looked good in some of the film that you got to see. He looks stronger, looks more into it. His hands have always been pretty good, just not necessarily consistent, right? But uh, I thought our D line. I mean, just from some of the drills and different things like that, it's hard to separate those guys because those guys are already very talented. So was definitely happy with that. For the most part, man, I would say probably what I was the most impressed with was just that Smitty effect is crazy, man. Don't that we these guys they look different this year. From freshman to sophomore, you see Reggie Powers, you see these guys, and you're just like, whoa, like, hey, something's different, right? Hell, even Eli Bowen, all 5'9" of him, he looks the part too. But these guys, I mean, Giovanni Gibson, some of these guys that the work that they've put in and the short amount of time they've been here.
And I was so happy to see Giovanni back out there all the way with them. Hey, whoo, that's good to see, man, because that's a guy that, I mean, you could have lost him right there. You break a leg in spring practice that late in the spring practice, and it's concerning. You know what I mean? So to get that guy back, to see what we're seeing from, and listen, to see what we're seeing from the room, and Penn State, of course, in here talking about young guys. And Zion Kearney was one of the young guys that really looked really good at the end of the year last year. Eli Bowen was a damn freshman All-American. So I'm not really concerned about those cats. But I like it that we're seeing some of these guys that are stepping back up. When you have a defense that like this, you're not going to win every battle. And that's not what we've seen at any point during the spring. It's not what we're probably going to see at any point during the fall either. This is going to be a battle every day. But I was going to ask you guys, what have you heard about, listen, because of the injuries last year and what we saw, have you heard anything about them dialing back on some of this hitting stuff? Because I am starting to hear some of those things that they may be dialing it back a bit on that. You're muted, Chris Mason.
First off, I before Coach Dent left, I was able to we were able to talk. The new rehab guys are making a difference. That's what I've heard from my sources, especially the recovery guy. They've bought new recovery equipment. They're working on new connections in terms of being able to get scans done quicker, things along those lines, and be able to get better information into the hands of the medical staff and things along those lines. So I hear that some of the changes they're making, that they're putting stuff into effect, and it's making a difference. But I mean, I think they need to scale it back a little bit. Coach Dent, before he left, he dropped off, said they have more rest days in place, and they seem to be scaling things back a little bit, doing some things. I think if
you have to worry about toughness at this point, it kind of feels like
that ship sailed. That ship sailed, right? I mean, I think a little bit.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just jump in, just to say, and kind of what we were talking about. I'll say it again on screen, was just the fact of it's kind of both frustrating, like on one hand, and on the other hand, just kind of weird, just trying to figure out kind of that perfect recipe, that perfect mix, because 22, you hear players talking about, hey man, we were gassed by like game 4 of that season, right?
Right.
Just from all the summer work to fall camp, we were gassed. 23, it just felt like this team was fresh. You know, for the most
Except you
part.
got a lot of injuries in the back half of the year, though, in 23.
Yeah, but for the majority, won't say for the most part. I don't even know how to really say it, but for a good part of that season, you played complimentary football to the point where your defense wasn't necessarily on the field all the time, but then it kind of, game management became an issue. Last year was just, as BV has called it, an aberration, right? So it's one of those things where you thought in 23 they had figured it out, right? On the field and off the field, how to get these guys, how to get the literally 110% out of these guys. And then 24 was just one of those years where it was like, hey, that injury bug bit everybody. It was like, hey, I think it was worse than what they let on, right? So this year I'm hopeful that you can kind of figure out when to dial back, when to dial up, when to keep the dial on, and then when to
there's got to be a balancing act. You know what I mean? And there's a reason why this sports medicine stuff and all this sports science is. I mean, there's numbers to prove it. They've got when you've been worked too hard. Those vests that they use. I mean, they can tell when you've got enough sleep. They can tell when you haven't. They can tell all that stuff, right? So if you're not using the information at hand, then that's a problem. And I think that an old school approach is asking for trouble at this point. You have to go with what you have. You know what I mean? And if if the numbers are telling you, then you need to dial it back for a player or two, then you should dial it back for a player or two. And by the time you get into the season, and particularly the conference season, if you're not already hard hitting and ready to go and be tough, you're probably not going to get there. I don't understand why you would waste power on the practice field. You know what I mean? I just don't see it. And we've got some heavy hitters on that defensive side. If you don't want them hitting material, you don't probably want them hitting the rest of your guys, either your receivers, your running backs, particularly if they've had some injury issues, like most of our running backs have.
Look, I mean, it's going to be structured. My thing is, I think everybody knows what's on the line this year, from coaches to players. So I think it's one of those things where everybody is excited. And I think that, to me, one of the things that I'm really excited about is that it's not necessarily confidence with the team, because I think they're getting a lot of confidence from guys like Mateer and just some of these guys who have played, big time college football or whatnot that are coming in. To me, I feel like we're getting further away from now. The media, the majority of OU media is not going to let us forget, like, hey, BV is on the hot seat, this and that. But I think the players are getting further away from that to the point where it's like, hey, there's really we understand that. We understand there's pressure to do good because this is Oklahoma, but we feel really good about our team, right?
Did you see the Who Dominated video OU football put out?
Oh.
Where they're asking the players who dominated at practice.
Mm-hmm.
Name one student who dominated at practice. And they asked John Mateer, and he said nobody on defense. I mean, so he's literally just, there was, lots of players, it was PJ, it was Fasusi, just lots of names, a lot of RSJ, RMT getting thrown out. And they asked Mateer, and he goes, well, nobody on defense dominated, I'll tell you that. So, it's just he's bringing the attitude back, I think, to the offense. I think that's helping. I think Arbuckle and Mateer have infused confidence into the offense last year, right? They just didn't know. Arnold's confidence was shot. Everything. The team was just down at the end of last year on offense. It was perfect in a terrible offensive year. And I think the confidence is back. You're seeing that was especially battling the defense. And I think that confidence infusion is going to make for this fall camp to be very interesting. Where this team goes, just because it's clear Mateer is the alpha out there, and that just makes a massive difference compared to not to knock on Jackson Arnold, but I just don't think he had the same kind of, confidence and leadership with the team.
He was scared of his own shadow, Chris. It's a fact.
I'm trying to be nice.
Why? I don't see the point at this point.
Because he's going to throw 3 picks and fumble twice when he's in Norman.
He'll never make it to Norman, bro.
I just want to see. I'm really excited about that Friday night game with Baylor and Auburn. That's going to be a chance for us to really figure out a lot of things about both teams, right? At least early, So that's going to be really interesting. But no, I mean, I think with Mateer, you're just asking him to stay upright, right? No injuries in any type of way, right? But no, I think Mateer with his legs, the RPO, different things like that. There's this offense has a chance to be really fun this year. And like I said a while ago, it's obviously I want to score 40, 50 points a game. That's amazing. That's great. But in all reality, hell, if you're just comparing this, to last year, I just want to get up and down the field again, man. I just want to know what it's like. Like each drive, hey, we can get up and down the field. We can let it sling. We can run the ball.
We could score, right? Every drive we could score. It's not a 3 and out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm wanting to get to. Do you guys foresee any scenarios where we could maybe get to like some split back stuff with some of our running backs? I mean, I don't, like I said, there's different parts of this offense that you just haven't necessarily seen, and even at his prior stops, you haven't necessarily seen him run things like that. So it's interesting to see if he wants to get them. I know we'll probably be in 11 personnel an awful lot, but
I think you might. I think you could because I saw him in jumbo packages at times around the goal line. He definitely doesn't mind getting under center. I think if it's something that they can work into what they're trying to do, I don't think he's averse to anything in his offense. That's what I've noticed because I've watched everything that I can get my hands on of every game that he's coached. So everything that I can get my hands on, and I love it. I think that, seeing him in a jumbo package, seeing him on the under center with your, that's not something that you see from any air raid coach ever. So, that's promising because they can get a full head of steam and, and still get that, headed in the right direction.
And you can flex out. Ott's basically, another slot receiver based upon his skill set out of the backfield, right? So you can flex him out, and you could keep, say, X-Rob in the backfield, right? And I think you're going to see multiple backs. I think, Buckle's got he's got a suite of tools that he didn't have at Washington State. And if you saw his interview on Media Day on Wednesday, I'm going to paraphrase him greatly. He's like, if you don't evolve, you die in college football, right? I'm constantly evolving, constantly adding stuff to my scheme and what we're doing. Because if you don't, you die. He's like, and he's got
evolve or die. Absolutely.
And he's got a master of offense in Kevin Wilson to work stuff off of, right? I mean, if you weren't alive, and I'm probably old enough that we may have some younger OU fans who don't remember the 08 offense. The 08 offense was a complete and utter. It just transformed college football. I mean, it was the best offense anyone had seen in 10 years in terms of performance. That offense was unstoppable, and Kevin Wilson was the architect of taking Grisham, all the receivers, the running backs, Sam Bradford, being the point guard, quarterback. So, I think if you're Arbuckle and Kevin Wilson's giving you tips, you take those tips, right? You take those tips, you integrate that stuff.
Kevin Wilson's offense, if you go back and watch that 08 offense, I think the thing that was just so interesting about that offense is how that first drive that they would have, he would set the tone with that. And you knew throughout the game kind of just watching that first drive, how the game was going to go. Was he going to be heavy on the run? Was he going to be heavy on the pass? What he wanted to do. However, he also made adjustments. And so you saw so many different formations, so many different personnel groupings throughout the game that you were just like, this, I mean, not only would they would give you, like, he would be determined to run the football and they would run the football. But at the same time, later on throughout the game, it's just play action, play action, play action, and just darting down the field, 20-yard gain, 40-yard gain, touchdown. I mean, it was ridiculous. So having him out there now to kind of be in that, fill that void or be kind of in between, and I think he's going to be a voice of reason as well. I mean, like I told you in past podcasts, it's not even on the field stuff that I'm excited about. It's actually off the field to where whenever you have these, your offensive meetings, obviously Arbuckle's voice is the loudest in the room, but if there's somebody like that that has a resume like he does, and you can actually work with that guy and listen to that guy, maybe he's able to, pinpoint and pick out some different things that you guys can exploit with some of these teams. Because, Texas fans, if you're in here, maybe you'll like this, but I see him possibly being kind of like a Gary Patterson, what Gary Patterson was for PK, right? Somebody like that, where we all know, don't get me wrong, I think Arbuckle on his own is fine, but if you can have somebody that's a mentor like that, somebody that'll come in and actually help, and it's going to be progressive, there's no reason that you wouldn't do it, because he can help tighten things up to where, hey, this is perfect. I mean, this is great, but to be elite, to be perfect, we need to tighten these things up. We need to do this right here. Somebody that can point you in the right direction is never bad. But having a guy like that is going to be so beneficial for BV. Guys, I want to know. What are, we didn't really talk, there hasn't been too much talk about the secondary. I know people are talking about, you've seen Omarion Robinson, in there. What do you guys think about that how that's going to shape out? Are we thinking Jaden Hardy and Boganowski, or are we thinking that it'll kind of be a kind of a 5-man, rotation? Occasionally you may see Omarion Robinson in there. Or how are you guys feeling about the safety room?
It feels like you're going to see. I mean, look, man, I don't think that there's any doubt that they like the upperclassmen, right? I mean, and you have to, they've got some size there and I think that Peyton Bowen still has the opportunity to be one of the better safeties in the country. It's about health with him, I think, more than anything else. But I mean, look, there's a reason why, I think that Reggie Powers moving into I think you're going to probably see more of him at Cheetah from what we understand. He looked pretty good there today from everything that I've seen. Talking to his dad, he was saying that he really enjoyed working with Goodwin because that was that's kind of his specialty is that Cheetah position, and that he's gotten to know it pretty well. That's what he played in high school, similar position. Kind of, it's nothing new for him. It feels like you're going to see more Kendall Doby. Yeah, I think you'll probably see him at Cheetah. I think you might end up seeing him at corner as well because he's bigger. He's able to he likes to hit. He's going to be able to play some of those bigger receivers, I think, and be able to play physical with them in that kind of deal. I expect that as far as the safeties are concerned, Boganowski and Powers, I would expect to be in there, right? But RSJ and then Peyton Bowen, I expect them to do pretty well. I think there's going to be a rotation. I think it's going to be more like 4. I'd be kind of surprised if you saw them going into the freshman class too much because there's already so much talent there, right now, unless they really show out. But I know Omarion Robinson, man is there's people that like him a lot,
Him and Guillory, both getting props in a deep room. Devin Jordan apparently was running with the ones today as well. you can't forget Tulsa Union cornerbacks just play at OU. They just do. I mean, they just start and they play at OU. So, there's an opening for Devin Jordan. Maybe he just takes over at cornerback because he's one of the fastest players on the team. He's got a little bit of a longer frame than Eli Bowen. Gentry is out there. Peyton Bowen is out there. The secondary looks good. I think the safety rotation, I think Boganowski's probably going to sit behind RSJ a little bit this year. And next year is where his star takes over. Same thing a little bit for Jaden Hardy, I think, and Omarion. Once Peyton moves on, if Peyton can keep stay healthy. Gentry looked good out there today from all reports. So did Jacoby. To not answer Chris's question, one of the things that leapt out at me today was how effective Nagy's spring portal was. Jaden Ott looks fantastic. The kicker looked great. Makula looks good at backup center, even maybe pushing Everett, according to some reports out there. Jermichael Carter looks good at wide receiver. Seems to be another weapon there. And at cornerback, I think OU made a wise move, not wasting cash on a cornerback who wasn't going to beat Eli Bowen, Gentry, Jacoby, Devon Johnson, Jeremiah Newcomb, or Cortland Guillory.
Malik Hawkins.
Malik Hawkins. They made it. It looks like Nagy maybe kind of, if you want an early sign that Nagy knows what he's doing, getting Jaden Ott and spending money there, that looks well planned. The kicker looks fantastic. The one attempt I saw was maybe like a 35-yarder, but he kicked it over the netting. Like the netting 5 yards of past there. He kicked it completely over it. And he hit a 50-yarder in practice today. That was coming out of the Crimson Combine, that was the weakest spot on the team, kicking. And he appears to have fixed that. He didn't get a tight end. Okay. The tight end group so far looks all right. But I think betting on the young corners and talking, Nagy talking to the coaches, them coming to a conclusion. I'm not going to spend money here because it's a waste, because I need to let the young talent flow up. And it looks like that's paying off at cornerback, especially. So I think it's early Nagy signs are very positive. He identified problems, and we got at least two, maybe three starters out of his spring pickups, and two of them are just huge, the kicker and the backup center, right? Because center, if Troy Everett had been healthy all last year, it would have made a massive difference. If he'd been healthy all of August and had started all the games at center, and we hadn't had all this merry-go-round of stuff, it would have made a huge impact. So the fact you've got Makula ready to take over if something happens to Everett is massive. And the fact you've got what appears to be a real Division I Power 4 kicker is in close games, road games that we're anticipating. That's two huge signs from what I saw today.
Chris Mason, let's back up just a little bit. Let's unpack that. Jason, we'll go to you. Offensive line, man. There's some things that there's some questions we definitely need to jump on real quick.
Yeah.
First off, we hear all these different names. We hear who's out there with the ones, who's with the twos. First off, where the hell is Jake Taylor at? Okay. Hold on. Where is Jake Taylor at? And then on top of that, I think the next thing that we need to figure out is just what happens with Ozada and Howland. I think coming into probably fall camp, probably coming into spring, obviously with the injuries and stuff like that, you got to keep that in mind. But sure. I think that I don't think it's necessarily they've been passed up, possibly just because of the injury. I think it's mostly because I think my opinion, and Jason, will go to you. I'm not sure if it's just Art Buckle coming in here, if it's not Art Buckle coming in here and just feeling like, hey, EPL has to start. Like we could get nasty. With our GT counter and different things that we like to do when we pull we could get really nasty. We get nasty very quickly. So it's interesting because at that guard spot, you're thinking to yourself, okay, you got Gabe Eicher and company, rightfully so, calling for Sexton to be moved inside to guard, right? Chris
That's
Mason,
what he's going to
they
translate
don't.
to in the NFL.
Yeah, Chris Mason and they don't think that they think he's a tackle. Then you look over there again with Weewood and Waywood. What do you do with that? Because Ryan Foje is right there breathing on his neck. No diddy. But still, you sit there, you say, okay, Foje is competing and is really pushing him, right? But where is Jake Taylor at in that? And then when you think about Howland and Ozada, you just like, okay, well, Sexton's out there. And I think everybody had big hopes for Sexton at tackle. So we'll see. He's healthy. This is the healthiest that both Jakes, I think, have been since at OU, probably before they even, came as freshmen. But regardless, it's the healthiest they've been, best shape that they've been, in my opinion. But Howland and Ozida, it's one of those things where they played really well. After that, like I think second half of that South Carolina game and on, they really turned it on. But again, I just think that you're probably going with your most athletic and probably your best offensive line. So again, where the hell is Taylor at? And then what happens with Howland and Ozida?
Listen, I've heard a few things about Taylor. It sounds to me like he's been passed up, period, end of story. I just think he's been passed up. I think he probably feels like, and I think he might have been a little loud about his possible intentions of getting into the portal and then not doing it. So I don't know exactly where he's at, if he's gotten himself into Big Bill's doghouse or what's going on, or if he's just kind of fallen out of favor overall. But I think the writing's on the wall with Jake. I think he may be healthy. I don't know at the moment that he isn't showing above some of these other guys. Simmons has come in, from what I understand, and he already looks a lot different than what he looked before as far as body is concerned. So, you add a guy like that with experience like he has, that's given him a situation where he's probably in good shape. When it comes to, but I'm going to say this again, and when it comes to EPL, man, he's got a brother that's in the NFL, a lineman in the NFL, brother. This is a guy that stud athlete. We saw him running in the freaking 100-meter dash in high school out of that Catholic school with a bunch of little dudes, and he's keeping up with them all. I don't think that it's that surprising. He's a mauler. I also think that you start looking at, Ozida, he looks better following I think once you got past the, I don't know what that, was that me? No. I think once you got past that Tennessee game, you saw Howland kind of coming into his own a little bit. But you got to remember, I think that Fabechi Wiwu was looking a lot better towards the end of the year as well. And even, Brown, as bad as he looked early in the year, hadn't looked that good. He looked a lot better in the second half of the season too. Somebody I'm going to say again, and I know a lot of people are not bringing his name up. Isaiah Autry-Dent is coming back from this injury. He's back. He's ready and back. And I know that Big Bill liked Isaiah, really likes what he brings to the table at 6'7", over 300 pounds, and being able to move the way that he does. I would not put him out of that top couple of rotation at either tackle, for that matter. I also wouldn't. I think that Fasusi has kind of cemented himself as somebody who's going to get some playing time. And yeah, of course, Foji. I think that Foji moving to the guard position certainly puts some of these guys on notice. It feels like to me. When it comes to Sexton, and I'm in agreement with you, Chris. To me, he is going to be a guard at the next level, not a tackle. So I feel like it's one of those deals where he's shown that he plays very well at guard. Why would you, if you've got other guys that are going to be better and you can move him in and you get more out of it? I don't know. I think a lot of it will depend on. It feels to me like this lineup is going to be kind of fluid for a while. And I know that nobody really wants to hear that because you want to have your 5 guys that you want to go with all the time. I don't think it's a bad thing that you have multiple options on the line. That's just me. Chris
The
Mason?
the only thing I would say, sorry, I dropped off there, is that, can Sexton rediscover the form where he was the guy that replaced Tyler Guyton and looked like he was going to be the next OU offensive tackle, right? He lost that because of injuries. He lost that because he was playing guard. I don't think he's a guard. I think he's too tall. He doesn't have the right frame for guard. But, I could be wrong on that. I'm not an offensive line genius, but I'm not the only person who thinks that. I think his future is I think he is a tackle, and that's where his future is. But we'll see. We've got OU finally has tackle depth and tackle competition, right? You're right about Avery Dent. You've got Baklenko. You've got Howland. You've got Sexton. You've got Fasusi. I just harken back to what Kobe McKenzie said at the media day, right? Come take my job, right? And that's, Ryan. And
every position is that way anyways. That's how it should be anyways.
But last year it wasn't, right? Because there was nobody to back up anybody because we didn't have anyone. I mean, it was just play the guys that are healthy. I think Ozetta and EPL are going to fight for a position. And I think Foji if Nwewu struggles, Foji is going to take his job. Foji and Fasusi, same thing with Sexton. If Sexton struggled, Fasusi's taking his job. And if he can't handle pass rushers and doesn't have the foot speed and the mobility to handle being a left tackle, Michael Fasusi is going to take his job. Howland is probably going to be your swing guy between, with Simmons and also probably backing up whoever's not starting at left tackle, or maybe they get into the starting lineup based upon how things go. I think Howland and Ozetta just need a little ramp up time because of the knee, because of the shoulder cleanup. So that's where they are. But I mean, Taylor was playing inside at guard and was playing at guard and tackle today. So he was part of the three O-line groups that they ran out there. So we'll see. Is he? I think he's a guard based on his foot speed alone. From compared to the guys that we now have out there. I think they want to try and redshirt Baklenko. They'd like to redshirt Bakula if they could, because both of those guys become key pieces for next year. They both have a red shirt to use. But yeah, it's if you're wanting a set offensive line group day 1, day 2 of practice, it's just not going to happen. Bill's going to tinker a little bit, and we're going to see. He's probably going to lean to some veteran guys against Michigan. That's probably a safe call based upon, the Michigan game. Will we see a lot of Fasusi against Illinois State, Kent State, and Temple? Yeah. You maybe don't want Fasusi's first start to be against Kendrick Falk from Auburn or in the Texas game. So there's some things to shake out there. But I think overall the talent and depth is much better. But it's going to need to shake. It's going to Troy Everett. It's tough. Troy Everett's the leader. He's worked hard to be the leader, to get that. The O-line had a great offseason based upon everything we've been told. And Troy Everett was a big part of that. So, we'll see how things shake out. Sometimes Bill finds a combination that works, and it's the 5 guys that communicate and work together. And it's not the 5 guys who we might think are the most talented. So we just need to see how it shakes out and how things go. But Sexton to me is either starting at left tackle or he's backing someone up or he's backing somebody up at right tackle, maybe Simmons at right tackle, and you have Howland Fasusi fighting left tackle out, and Avery Dent, once he's in the mix and he's back from his knee injuries when he's working hard, is probably also potentially in there. Same with Daniel Akinkunmi at guard. And we'll see how things shake out. But overall, we have just so much more options than we had last year. And that's a good thing.
So Benji has been in here kind of screaming this. His last few comments have been kind of a consensus. He says, if Fasusi is like Kelvin Banks, you start him now. Banks' second game was obviously against Bama with Will Anderson and Dallas lining up across from him. Essentially, he's saying, hey, he doesn't necessarily like certain things that Sexton does or presents out there on film. He's a big believer in go ahead, take your lumps with the young guy, get him out there on the field, get him the experience, and let him go ahead and rip. Right. So essentially, that's what Ben G is saying. Like, how do you guys feel about that? Do you think Fasusi? Do you take your chances? Obviously, I think we talked about it. I think Foje probably has a better, has a better chance, or maybe an easier route to start. Maybe over,
Yeah, I don't
maybe
think
over if
that.
he's pushing him. But do you take your lumps with those young guys, or do you kind of go with what you've been going with now?
I don't think you take your lumps with anybody whenever you have depth there at this point. And in view of the fact of where Brent Venables is, because look, we've been talking about this a lot the last few days and the last few weeks. And you guys, I know you've heard me say it's starting to, I'm starting to wonder, and I said this the other day, and I've been meaning to ask this in front of you: is Venables in more trouble now that Joe C is quote unquote retiring? Is he in a little more hot water than we originally thought coming into this season? Because I know the three of us weren't really buying the whole "you got to win 8 or you're out." Now I know that there's people that all along have felt that way, but to me, the more that you see everything that they've put together, they bringing in a guy like Nagy and bringing in, and changing up some of the stuff with the medical staff, bringing in and spending money at all these positions, the quarterback, the running back, the offensive line, the receivers, everything that they and more money on the defense too. To me, you're looking at schedule or no schedule. There's not a lot of excuses left, in my opinion. I think that they're setting him up to have a chance to win, because if you don't win, I think that he very well may get shown the door. It almost feels like there's a different hierarchy than there was 6 months ago.
Well, my whole thing is, the Texas boys are in here last night talking about Nagy is controlling everything and this and that. I don't believe none of that. Look, at the end of the day, I think it's one of those things where we kind of fell for the facade. We kind of fell for this, hey, now we got to start, gearing ourselves towards giving, Josie a farewell tour, right? It's not necessarily the case simply because he's not necessarily going anywhere immediately. They are, I mean, they're actively
Hold
searching.
up,
He
though.
might be kind of
I
pulling
think that they're
back.
keeping him, Chris. You know as well as I do that they're keeping him around because what he does with the rest of the athletic program
Yeah.
is what it is, and I think that he's very good at that. I think that football passed him by a while back.
Well, I get what you're saying, but the thing is that they're still actually performing a real search. Matter of fact, hey, if you need anybody to fill that void, I know somebody. I know an attorney. I know a guy. Anyways, back to this. So, with that being said, I mean, Chris Mason, what are your thoughts? Do you just kind of switching back to those gears? Do you take your lumps with those young guys or not?
I think if you truly feel Fasusi is going to be the starter post Texas, then yes, start him now. If you're not convinced, if Sexton or Howland outplay him badly in camp, and you have no idea when you think you would be starting him, then no. And that's as simple as I can make it. If Foji's outplaying Ozida or Nwewu, then you play him. If you think you're going to be starting him, and can you start 2 freshmen on the offensive line game 1? That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. Based upon the way things are going, I think that's where you are. If you feel like Fasusi and Foji, their inevitability of starting by around Texas is apparent, start them now and sub in the vets if they're getting a little at times if they're getting a little swamped against Michigan and Auburn, sub them in sub the vets in to keep some depth and some balance going. But yeah, I would start them. I'd start both of them. Now that may have sent some ripples through the offensive line group, but I think that's where it goes. To your other point though that Jason said, with the way Nagy has filled the gaps in the roster that were apparent, with the way the team looks, strength and conditioning wise, looks on the hoof, Brent has to win now. He just does. Everything's been lined up and set up for him. You got him a quarterback. You got him an elite running back. You filled all the holes on offense. His defense is loaded with 3 years of his players on defense. The depth is all there on defense to replicate what we did last year on defense, or maybe even be better. Context is obviously king in the games and how things go. But in my opinion, yeah, Brent has to win 8-9 games to keep his job. If he's 7-5, I think Nagy basically will look at the games and the structure of how things went and could easily determine that he needs to make a change. And I think Nagy's going to be the one that presents that to the AT&T guy, Stevenson, right? And says,
who's the one that's in charge anyway, right?
And he's going to say that to Haraz as well. He's going to send it to Haraz because Haraz is the one that's eventually going to have to explain to the Regents why he's replacing the ball coach. We know this from the Blake era, right? The Regents all voted on it, and Josie presented it, and the Regents.
Luckily, and I'm glad we're talking about that. Maybe I'm just going down this hill by myself. Luckily, I don't think that's going to be the case this year, guys. I
don't either. The team looks great.
I think we geared up this year for what we. I think what's where we want to be at. I'm not saying that we're going to win everything, but where we want to be at this year, I think we will be there.
I agree. That's why
I'm in agreement with that too. I am too, but I'm saying that at this point, it feels like there's not any more.
If he can't get it done this year, he's not getting it done, right?
That's right.
You've given him every weapon and rebuild everything. He's had time to rebuild his defense with his guys. And the defense is loaded with his guys, right? I mean, it is 2-3 deep at most positions with his guys. It's his scheme. They're all ready to play his scheme. You can't say anything more about that.
This is probably the best. I'm sorry. I was just going to say this is probably the best. This is the best looking OU team that we've had in quite a long time. Can't necessarily say what they're going to have on the field if hopefully they do us right, but this is the best looking team that they've had in quite some time. This team right here, to me, I mean, don't get me wrong, like Isaiah Washington, Nick Bonito, or Isaiah Thomas, excuse me, Nick Bonito, Perion Winfrey, those guys were nasty, man. Those guys were hell to deal with. Delarian Turner, Yale. Speed D had some good concepts.
Brian Asamoah. Some had good players. But Kemp Lewis is better looking.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a higher ceiling, right? I think we agree there.
It's just the fact of you feel really good about this team, man.
Absolutely. That's not what I was saying at all. The point I was making was, to me, you can't afford to. I mean, you got to play the best dude if you're Brent Venables, because I don't think that you have as much leeway as we may have thought 3 months ago, 6 months ago.
Yeah, there is no tomorrow. It's right. This year, right? Like, look.
That's all I was saying. I'm not saying that. Yeah. I'm not saying that I don't believe that they're going to go. I think that they win. I've been saying 9 games. And there's a world that I could see them winning more than that. I've been saying 9 games and keeping it, but I think that they have as good a chance to make the playoff and contend for this thing as anybody else, including Texas, with what they have in the building right now. So I agree with you on that part. The point I'm making is that if you're Brent Venables, you're not safe unless you go do that. So I don't know why you would screw around and wait on anybody. That's the point I was trying to make. I wasn't saying that I think that they're not prepared to win, because I do think they are.
I think you're right. I mean, I think that's where it is. And it's obviously on the offensive side of the ball. where the bigger questions are, right? Well, I mean, the defense I'm seeing on the hoof in practice looks ready to roll. The offense, you're betting a lot on Mateer and Arbuckle and Ott. I mean, the main thing when I was watching, my main thought is that, OU triplets, Mateer, Ott, and tell me the receiver who's going to go for 1,200 yards. That's what it looks like. That's what the first day of practice that I got to see looked like to me. That if it's Burks, I don't know. It could be a combination of guys, or maybe it is, Burks just blows up and has that kind of Kyle Williams year. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're Nagy, you're like, look, I gave you all the toys you wanted, and you didn't win the games. What else is there? You have had 3 sub-8 win seasons. Can't do that, man. I gave you everything, and you've got we let you hire Goodwin. We got you Kevin Wilson. We've stacked your support roster with really good
Dreiling even. I mean, you got 2 linebacker coaches, and that's what you do.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, exactly. So Nagy's taking a big administrative load off Brent. That's what I've heard. That's what's going on in terms of NIL and management and stuff like that. So he's got, he doesn't have to worry about scouting and evaluation stuff this August. Nagy's team's doing that in terms of making new offers, figure out who from 27 they want to offer, figure out who from 26 they want to try and flip. The Stacey Ford, the UCLA GM who we hired away, just reoffered one of the USC offensive tackle verbals. He didn't do that for no reason, right? Because they obviously looked at film and have determined they can flip this kid. They want to flip this kid. So a lot of the stuff that Brent would have had to have done in August is off his plate. Just coach. I mean, pardon my French. Just coach the damn football team and get them ready to kick ass and win football games.
That's right. And it's time for him to. And look, I've been one of his staunchest supporters, and I'm saying this: it's time for the learning curve to flatten. Go win. You've got the team to do it. Go do it.
Yeah, we got you the quarterback, and we got you Arbuckle, and we got the combo that could mesh with the guys you didn't want to fire because you didn't want to clean house on the offensive side of the ball. We got the guy who can mesh the easiest, the quickest with Emmett, DeMarco, and Bill.
Yeah.
And it's all working. That's all we're hearing. Those guys are clicking. The offseason, I heard those coaches are like simpatico. That's not the Latrell mess we had last year. Buckle has integrated with those guys perfectly. They're clicking. The offensive side of the ball coaching staff is in sync. They know what's going on. They know what Arbuckle wants to do, and they know how to coach it.
So to close this thing out, everybody like, subscribe, do all those different things. Horns Down Podcast, Sooners 360, Hall of Fame college football podcast with Jason and the coach together. Sooners Intel. Obviously, we come here. We do this every Thursday, Friday, whenever we want to do the show, right? So definitely like, subscribe, share all this content, do all those different things. But we've been on here for about an hour and 10, fellas, and it's getting late. But I do want to hit off one topic here. We're just throwing stuff out there. Do you think that Valai has his guys now? Because here's the thing, and I just kind of going off what Chris Mason said, you got your guys, right? So think about Jay Valai, right? Jay Valai at Alabama, I think he was really building something, but he's building kind of like an archetype, like a real, that tall, lankier, kind of speedy corner, right, at Bama before he left, because that's what they had. They had a bunch of just tall, lanky DBs that could pass for wide receivers, right? But here he's got variety. He's got the size, he's got the lanky, tall guys that he wants, but he also has some guys that have shutdown corner potential. So I guess the question that I'm asking, I think we all really love what Brandon Hall has been able to do with our safety room. And I think at times we've all been really happy and pleased with our corner play as well. But corner was kind of a little bit of a thing last year simply because there were some plays that you gave up. Shout out to our friend at Nino's Corner, Nick. Nick would definitely try to poke fun at us about that as far as those numbers. He would say I'm not, but he is. But regardless, though, when you look at kind of those, the analytics and everything stuff, there were some big plays we gave up. Obviously, point out a game. You could go to Tennessee, look at Auburn, what they did with us having to play so far off of them. I don't know why they just didn't just run go routes all the time down the sideline. We couldn't really defend it, right? And then the fact of like with Kanai, I will die on this hill. I think Kanai is a good, he's a really good corner. Problem is that he as the game lingers on or when he gets tired, his technique gets really sloppy. It gets very sloppy. So
He didn't even turn around and put his head on the ball, bro. I had to struggle with that.
So with that being said, either one of you guys has his guys. Do you feel confident have some
Yes.
young guys that are going to be forced to play this year, right?
Listen, I'll pass this right to you, Chris Mason. I think they've been over recruiting this spot for a while now. When you saw guys and Seatbelt Vickers, the guys they were bringing in, you knew this. The guys that they brought in, look, Malik Hawkins. I know they haven't been talking a ton. He's made plays. I've seen some of the plays that he's made on video on X. That it's like and you got to remember his pops was an elite secondary guy, and has been teaching him forever. And stud, nobody threw at him in the Dallas area. Nobody. They just didn't do it. Same thing with they were asking. Penn State guy in there was asking about Eli. Look, Eli was completely underrated, freshman All-American guy. He's one of the few guys that was able to stick with Ryan Williams for an entire game. He's going to make a few catches because he's Ryan Williams, but he did not have the kind of game against Oklahoma that he had against most of the rest of the teams they played. I would just tell you that when you look at Malik Hawkins and then Jeremiah Newcomb, another elite father, that played at unbelievable. Bobby Newcomb was that guy at Nebraska. It just doesn't surprise me that he's showing out already. It doesn't surprise me that you're hearing about Cortland Guillory either. These dudes are all studs. This is the reason that they were ranked as high as they were, and why they were going after them. I think that they found, and then when you have a guy like Gentry coming back and hopefully he stays healthy, he's already an NFL type of guy. I think that they're going to do fine. I think there's a reason why they didn't go get into the portal, because I think that they have been recruiting that very well, just like they've been recruiting everywhere else very well on that defense, especially. Chris?
I didn't even mention Devon Jordan. The Tulsa
Devon
Union.
Jordan, sorry.
It's easy to forget. But again, Tulsa Union cornerbacks just starred OU. Dominic Franks, Trey Brown.
Right.
Devon is maybe better than either of those guys physically. He's faster, taller, lankier. I think, Chris, the short answer is, Jay Valai is out. You say DeMarco's out of excuses. Jay Valai is out of excuses. He has 3 years of guys he's wanted to put on the field. Gentry's now healthy. If Gentry's healthy and Eli Bowen is
out of the way, Woody's out of the way.
If it's time for to play his guys. The room's loaded with his guys. He's got more guys coming. The cornerback position pipeline from recruiting looks strong. I like the guy they got from Cali this year. It's set up. There's no more excuses for Jay Valai. He's got a nice combination of different body types and guys, right? So go forth, Jay, and build a cornerback team that we get some guys drafted and get us and take your recruiting to even higher level. So
with this defensive line, I think Chris was talking about it last night. When you got a defensive line unit like they have, it definitely takes a lot of pressure off of those guys too.
Yeah.
Yeah, start getting our hands on footballs again, and and do that. But I think there's no excuses. There's no excuses for DeMarco. You've got Jay Knott. Go make shit happen. Jay Valai, if you have Gentry back and you have Eli Bowen back, you've got no excuses because you've got depth behind them. Rotate guys in. Jacoby Johnson has all the talent in the world. You know, Devin Jordan, Newcomb, and you signed three top 200 cornerbacks, and Tristan Haynes might be the best.
Their floor is higher than the guys that ceilings. A lot of them.
And then you got Tristan Haynes, who might be the best of them all down the road, who just is probably going to red shirt because you need a red shirt, at least one of them. You can't play three freshman cornerbacks with two redshirt freshman quarterbacks. You just can't do it. So I think it's time for Jay Valai. You know, it's a theme, man, right? Everybody, it's Emmett Jones, we gave you the talent. DeMarco, we've given you the talent. Bill, we got you. Foj and Fasusi. You got young guys coming up. The roster is in the best shape it's been in a long time when you count how good the defense is. So I think, yeah, it's time. Jay Valai's had 3 years to recruit and develop guys. Go kick ass at cornerback. You don't have to play Woody Washington and Kenai Walker. You've got cornerbacks you wanted. Go start them.
Yeah, I'm really excited for some of our DBs to, you know, especially at our pro days, to kind of set the chart, set the tone too, because that still kind of bugs me. That, like, I swear his groin must have not been healed, because a 4.7 is still crazy to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit too nitpicky, but that was wild. But regardless, that's neither here nor there. Look, guys, we came back on. A lot of excitement that's going around. If you guys seen the videos, seen some of the clips, different things or whatnot, there is so much really to talk about, and we will definitely be back. I think we will keep on trying to hit these videos as much as we possibly can, just to stay on top of this. Simply because this was a really good discussion, guys. Any parting shots before we go?
Hey man, it's I was just saying I'm get ready for some video that I'm going to be pumping out here in the next few days, just of the travel, just the trip a little bit, you know, and some stuff like that. But like I said, I was out there in Athens today, and drove by the practice field, and you could hear Kirby on the loudspeaker and just trashing those guys. So it was pretty funny. I went out there, and I have my tall stick with my GoPro, and I don't know what I've got on it, but I didn't dare do it too much because I didn't want to get messed with, especially with the OU freaking plate on the front of my truck. So it wouldn't went well, but no, it was fun, man. It was it's been fun, and I've been flying the drone, doing some you know, stealth drone work there above the stadium. So we've got some cool stuff coming up, man. I'm excited about it. But thanks for coming on, guys, and for ending up having to do it for me. I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna be upgrading these damn computers, and I don't know what's going on with it right now, but we'll get it straightened out.
You're good. Chris Mason?
Again, it's only pads and shorts, but damn, the team looks effing good on the hoof.
All right. That being said,
I love that thing, on the hoof.
With that being said, people, we are out of here.